Assalamu alaikum dear students, welcome back to my channel. In today's lecture we are going to prove the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. Let's move on to the statement. The statement is every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence. Okay, every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence. Now I would like you to keep this in your mind that not every bounded sequence is convergent. For example, let's have a sequence 1 minus 1 1 minus 1 and so on. Now it's very clear from here that this sequence is a bounded one. Okay, but if you look it for convergence, you will see that it is a divergent sequence. Okay, but if you focus on this sequence, it has two subsequences which are convergent. And what are those sequences? One can be 1 1 1 1 and so on. This is a subsequence of this bounded sequence and it is a convergent sequence. Okay, it converges to, very well, it converges to 1. Okay, similarly it contains another subsequence and that subsequence is minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 and so on, and very well, this will converge to minus 1. So our sequence was a bounded sequence, not a convergent one, yet it contains two subsequences which are convergent. Okay, so this example is actually an example of the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. Okay, this claim is being fulfilled in this example, but we want to prove this statement generally. So let's move on to the proof of this theorem. All right students, let's start our proof. First of all, we assume that our sequence Sn is a bounded sequence, right? Now if we are saying that it is a bounded sequence, then it must have supremum as well as infimum. So I suppose that the infimum of this sequence Sn is A and its supremum is B. Okay, now if this is the case, then we can write A less than Sn less than B. Okay, or you can say that every term of the sequence is lying in the interval, close interval AB, right? Now what I am going to do is I'm going to divide, or you can say I'm going to bisect this interval into two sub-intervals of equal length. Okay, and in such a way, I'm going to do this process in such a way that one of the two sub-intervals that we are going to create should contain the infinitely many terms of this sequence, right? And if both the sub-intervals are containing infinitely many terms of the sequence, in that case we will consider the interval, the sub-intervals which is on the right hand side, right? So I'm going to divide this interval AB into two sub-intervals, and let's say the interval that I'm going to consider, which contains infinitely many terms or which is on the right side. Okay, so that will be like, I call that sub-interval to be A1 B1, and this will be like A less than equal to A1, which is less than B1, which is less than equal to B, right? This will be the case. And what will be the length of this subinterval, this new subinterval A1 B1? Its length will be B1 minus A1, and that will be equal to 1 by 2 times B minus A. How can I say this? Because this subinterval B1 A1 is actually half of the original interval AB. Okay, anyhow, Now I'm going to repeat this process, but this time with this subinterval. I'm going to divide this subinterval, I'm going to bisect this subinterval into two subintervals, okay? And again, I'm going to look for that interval, that subinterval which contains infinitely many terms of the sequence, okay? And if both are containing infinitely many terms of the sequence, then I'm going to consider the one which is on the right side, right? So this time our new subinterval is A2, B2, okay? Such that A is less than equal to A1, which is less than equal to A2, which is less than B2, which is less than equal to B1, which is less than equal to B, right? So this is the case. And the length of this subinterval, the new subinterval will be B2 minus A2 is equal to 1 by 2 square B minus A. I hope so this will make sense to you. Why is this happening? Because the new subinterval is another half of this interval, okay? So if its length was 1 by 2 times B minus A, so the length of this new subinterval will be 1 by 2 square times B minus A, right? And if we keep on moving like this, we will reach at some point where we will have a subinterval AK, BK, such that A is less than equal to A1, that is less than equal to A2, that is less than equal to, and we will reach here less than equal to AK, which will be less than equal to BK, which will be less than equal to so on, and finally this will be less than equal to B, okay? And if I ask you what will be the length of this subinterval, the kth subinterval, its length will be BK minus AK equals 1 by 2 to the power K times B minus A. Why? Because we have got this interval after K subdivisions, okay, after K bisections, okay. So this will be the length of the interval, kth interval, okay. So what are we doing actually? We are constructing a sequence of intervals, okay, whose length are given by this formula. Now if I ask you to write down the length of this subinterval AN BN, it will be BN minus AN equals 1 over 2 to the power n times B minus A, right? So what does it mean? It means that as we keep doing this process, we will reach at a point where this sequence of subintervals will approach a single point. How can I say this for sure? If you look at this expression, as you keep increasing on the value of n, this length will keep decreasing, okay, until we will reach at a point where when we will divide the subintervals, we will ultimately have a single point rather than another subinterval, right? So it's very clear that this sequence of interval. Alright students, so far we have concluded that this point S is actually intersection of all the subintervals that we have created in this process, okay. Every subinterval, or you can say every term of this sequence of subintervals whose length is greater than 0 contains this point n. So we can say very safely that there are many integers n such that Sn minus S will be less than 1, right? So, and then I say, let's suppose that n1 is one such integer. So for n1 we can have Sn1 minus S as less than 1. Again, we can choose another integer n2 which will be greater than this n1 such that we can make these terms more close to each other. Sn2 minus S will be less than 1 by 2. And continuing in this manner, we can find a subsequence of the original sequence Sn such that Snk minus S will be less than 1 over k for all nk less than nk plus 1, right? So we have successfully found out a sequence, actually I should say a subsequence of that given sequence, which is a convergent sequence itself. Okay, and this is what we needed to prove. Let me remind you, we wanted to prove that every bounded sequence has a convergent subsequence. So if we supposed a bounded sequence, we constructed an interval, a sequence of sub-intervals, and then we concluded that all these sub-intervals contains this point S. So there will be infinitely many values of n for which Sn minus S will be less than 1. And I supposed that, let's say, one of that n's is n1. So we will have Sn1 minus S less than 1. Similarly, I can choose another integer n2 which will be greater than n1 such that I can relate these two quantities by this inequality, right? So continuing in this manner, I can find out a subsequence of that given sequence such that Snk minus S will be less than 1 over k whenever nk is less than nk plus 1, right? So we have successfully found out a subsequence of that given sequence, which is a convergent sequence itself, right? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the complete video. Please like and share this video, subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any update in the future. And please give me your feedback in the comment sections below so that I can improve my videos. Thank you so much.